Okay, so good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world today. We have the absolutely pretty in pink Anne-Marie here joining us today from Empower Universe. She gave a fantastic lesson about getting in touch with your sense of purpose on Monday. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about how you found the experience of doing the session, how you found the worksheet, and any thoughts or questions or experiences that came up for you during this past few days. And to kick us off, Anne-Marie has suggested a wonderful topic, which is all about getting in touch with your inner guide. And so what I'd like to ask you to do as we get started on this session is just pop in the question in the comments. What was your experience of doing the session? What was your experience or any questions that came up for you during the doing the workbook exercise? And also, did you feel like you got a good sense of your purpose, or did you find that you are struggling to piece things together? Do let us know. We would love to hear from you. And we also have two things that I think it's worth mentioning just at the beginning of today's session as a few more people come online. So the first of those things is we are going to be giving away a fantastic prize at the end of today's live. So you're going to want to watch to the end. And this is something called the Install Your Inner Cheerleader Challenge, which basically is if you suffer from self-doubt, if you struggle with, well, Anne-Marie, I tell you what, I'm talking enough. Why don't you share what it is? Sorry.
Hi, everyone. We're really happy to be here with Holly.
You need to unmute.
So, yeah, we're really happy to be here. As you can see, we're smiling a lot together. So, yeah, the Install Your Cheerleader is basically this little voice that we had when we were a child. So, this little voice that says, despite the fact that your parents say to you, don't go there, don't do that, you still do it anyway. When we learn how to ride a bike, we just fall and get on track again. That kind of thing. This little voice that we were all born with, and that was always signaling us like, you're the best, you're gonna go there, you're gonna get there. But then as we grow up, the little great voice turns into something that is not so great. And instead of being our best friends, we usually are our worst friends, which is basically, sometimes I think we wouldn't even accept friends the way we are with ourselves. So Install Your Cheerleader is basically get this happy, nice voice that helps you get where you want to be, really motivate you and help you get there. Happy, nice.
Oh, sorry. Voice. The tech is going wrong for me here. So thanks for introducing that, Anne-Marie. And the second thing that I want to put out there tonight is that if anybody has gone through the Rapid Transformational Therapy session and found that they are not quite sure if they've got in touch with their sense of purpose, or wants to dive deeper and share what their regression scenes were and dig into them a little bit more, we're totally here to help you pick through some of that. So give us a comment, share about it within the comment section, and we will pick that up. And while you guys are putting those comments in, one of the things we were going to talk about is this issue of how we look externally for validation of the things that we want to do. So, Anne-Marie, in your experience, what causes us to do that? Are there some common patterns or typical causes, perhaps?
Well, basically, if you look at the books we were reading when we were a child, it's basically a beautiful lady waiting for Prince Charming to come in his beautiful white horse and take her away of all the pain, and they were happy forever after. So like we grow up always waiting for somebody to come and save us. So sometimes when I read to my to my children, I'm like, wow, okay, maybe we have to have a look at what we say, what we read to them, because yeah, basically we are always waiting for something to happen outside of us when we know and we can see that everything comes from the inside, from a decision we take.
I'd say in my experience of it, one of the big pieces has been how we so often have an idea of what the perfect parent should have been, and realizing that, you know, our parents are just like us, maybe even worse than us in some cases, but they're doing the best that they can, and coming to terms with accepting that they haven't met that ideal, and that was our ideal, it wasn't reality. Also, I've found, certainly for myself, can lead to this grasping for external validation, that to get something outside of us to say you're worthy enough, you're good enough, you're okay to pursue what you want, it's safe for you to have your own dreams, safe for you to voice your ideas and your opinions. And so, sorry, you were going to say something.
It's true that, like, what I usually found with the people I work with is that there is something inside missing, and from the moment there is something inside missing, then we are always looking for something else, something else outside. So you can look at, I don't know, something like we will be looking for our partner to just tell us everything we are not ourselves capable of telling ourselves. You know, like if we feel we're not pretty enough, then we will always be looking for somebody else telling us that we're pretty, without really believing it, but we still rely on this.
Yeah, I can so see that. In the workplace, one of the things that I notice with clients is we all have gaps. We all have things where we crave that external validation. And what can happen in the workplace, whether this is in business or in a job, is that we sort of have an empty bowl, and a bit like Oliver Twist, for anyone that knows that story, we're walking around in situations with an empty bowl saying, please, can I have some more? Can you fill my bowl? Can you give me the validation that I need? Can you tell me it's okay? Can you? And especially for women, one of the things that research shows that we look for a lot is so much reassurance. And without that reassurance, we don't necessarily move forward and take the action steps that we need to. And it can be a huge power gap for us. It's a huge way that we are not stepping into our full power and following what we want to do. And I don't know if you can put any more light on this, Anne-Marie, but I think that comes from, you know, we can consciously, as women in the modern world, we want to live these full lives where we can do anything. We're not restricted to the perhaps old gender roles of being the mother who stays at home and takes care of the house. But equally, we've grown up with a few generations of women behind us potentially who have had those models. And I think that has a big effect on our subconscious programming, because I've certainly found myself that as I've stepped forward into work and being in the business world, that some of those conditioned patterns about the place of a woman have certainly come up for me, fears, and they're not conscious. But when I've put some attention on them, it's been ideas around, this isn't the place for a woman. it's not feminine to stand up and talk. A woman should know her place. A woman definitely shouldn't outshine a man. And I wonder whether anyone else has been through these experiences. And again, how do you approach that? What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think you're totally right in the sense that, and I also feel that duality, right? We want something from ourselves, but then it's like there's a reminder from time to time, hey, you're the woman at home, so you should be doing this and that. So sometimes we fight it, and sometimes it comes again like, okay, that should be my task, or I should be doing this or whatever. So I think we have we have the way we grew up, but I think there's also like a generational impact, as you were saying, because it's not something that only our mothers gave us, but it's something that has gone on and on during many generations. So some way in the like unconscious, it's completely there. So it's something that we have also to work on somehow. It impacts us. And I feel that also.
Okay, amazing. And so there's another topic that came up during the week from some people in the group, which is sometimes some of the women in the group have a general sense of not feeling safe, and they know there's nothing wrong, but there is a sense of, when they look back at some parts of their life, they've said they feel like, yeah, they've just been going through life and feeling unsafe and reacting to that without necessarily being conscious of it. So how does that happen?
Well, from what I see, from what you're saying, I would link it to the fact that we rely on external, like validation. For me, it would be the same route, because if I don't feel I'm enough myself, then I will always need something from the exterior to just validate what I say, what I am, what I do, or whatever. So it's really working on how we can feel ourselves from the inside, so that we just don't need what comes from the outside to fill us up. Because anyway, what we take from the exterior is always temporary. Because sometimes what happens, I see people that they were not okay in certain situations, so they decided to go and live with their family to another country, completely change lives. And after a few times, different people, different country, but the situation happened again. Like the emotion from the inside, they feel like loneliness or whatever, comes back. So, what's the only common thing in this whole story? The person, not the environment, not the people, not all the outside stuff. So if that happens, is because we have to work something out ourselves. So it's a good clue to understand that, it's not the people around us, it's not where we live, it's something we have to sort ourselves out. And sometimes we just need a guide to do that.
Yeah, I mean, as you say that, I'm thinking about in the last week's lesson, one of the things I mentioned in passing was how so often when we think of making a difference, we focus on the external stuff, but the real transformation happens when we focus on ourselves and how we can respond differently, and stop trying to change everything outside, but focus on what we can personally control, our personal sphere of influence, right? So I wonder
not
if
easy. It looks simple, but it's not easy at all.
Okay, so I just want to switch over to some of the comments in the group for a minute, and we'll come back to this topic in a moment. So Helen Maria says, it's been a joy to actually look back and revisit what I liked to do when I was younger and to give it some validity. You wonder why you've never considered what you actually liked doing. I really have been living life by somebody else's rules. This is the exact breakthrough that we're looking to help people have. So I'm so happy that you've seen that. I can also share that I've also been through that experience of realizing I was living life by other people's rules. And it amazes me to this day. I always look back on the career advice that I had, and I always think, you know, nobody asked me the really simple questions. It was all about, what do you want for the future? What kind of lifestyle do you want to create? How much money do you want to earn? But no one asked me, what do you actually like and enjoy at that age? What have been the things that have given you the most sense of fulfillment? And I just think that's such a brilliant post, and it's great that you've had that experience from Anne-Marie's work and from the lesson. So really appreciate you sharing that. We've got another post from Lindsay. She says, I think I found the thread, she means the thread between her scenarios that she regressed back to. And she says, the dancing was about leading the group and also identifying what would help my parents' business by adding dancing to their entertainment. It was a restaurant business, by the way. With the focus on languages, it felt like this was adding value. This was my part. And by playing with the other children, allowing the parents to enjoy a meal in peace and go shopping or get provisioning, also followed the same theme. So it was her understanding at that age that the importance of there was an importance of teamwork, people, languages, and a grasp on what it took to run a business. That's what she thinks anyway. And she said the other children all spoke.
Really cool.
So the question that I would put to both of you, both Helen and Lindsay, with those two responses is, it's great that you've been able to connect the dots between your scenarios and you've been able to recognize a few things. Now, this sense of purpose, one of the questions that I often get asked is, what do I do once I know my sense of purpose? So I will share my advice. Anne-Marie, I'd like you to share yours to begin with.
I think it's like that, you know, sometimes people can regress to, you know, being a certain profession. And that's something that we said the other day, but we shouldn't think about the profession. We should think about, okay, what's important in that profession? So for example, taking care of people, like, you know, regressing to being a doctor or something like that. So what I like is taking care of people. Okay, my job today doesn't have anything to do with that. What could I do outside of my day-to-day life if I can't change my job, or if I don't want to change my job? What could I do to help people? So it's really asking you that kind of question, and it can be something that becomes a hobby, can be something that, you know, you help charity or whatever in your free time. It's really asking you the question, how can I start to live my purpose bit by bit? Because you don't have to just change everything from one day to another, but you can still, you know, at the weekends or after work, depending on your day-to-day, you can start thinking about, you know, projects or things you could do to help people around you. Or if it's painting, then start to paint, you know, buy the stuff you need at home to be from time to time dedicating time. And maybe someday you will think like, okay, I want to do that for the rest of my life. And, you know, you might decide to change everything. But it's not like, you know, thinking that it's so far away from what you do today that you just don't look at it. Because one day, we don't want to regret not having tried or not having given time to really what fills us up. And here we're talking about purpose and heart desires. So it's really important for us to look at it, because this is something we need in order to be well, to be happy, to feel fulfilled. So I think I'm really, really happy that you had the opportunity to look at this, and that now you start to, you know, think about it, see how you can start doing something that really help you transform some way your life.
Amazing. I would definitely echo that advice. My way of expressing that is much more to do with being in the present. So having a sense of purpose. Some people are very vocational. So some people, they live to work and they solely see their purpose in the career box. Okay. Other people are the other extreme, which is much more instrumental. So they are maybe the kind of people who see going to work as the way to make a living and don't have any other expectations about it beyond that. And then there's a third group, which is where there is some balance or harmony between those two aspects, or those two sides of the coin or scale. And what happened for me is that when I began to explore being more fulfilled in my career, in my work, in my life more generally, was that I began to realize that I was nervous of going into that space because it felt like it was ungrounded. It felt like, well, I can't chase everything that's happy. I have to be practical and grounded. And what I learned over time was that you need both. It's about bringing harmony between your material needs and your spiritual needs, the things that fulfill you and make you feel energized and not necessarily happy. I'm always hesitant to use the word happy because we're not always happy. But in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he was a psychologist and he was put into a concentration camp during World War II. And the main takeaway from his book for me was that he talks about how man can survive, or woman can survive, any ordeal as long as they have purpose. And what he observed was that the people who focused on how they could serve, even under those circumstances, the people who could tap into that essence of who they are, of their purpose, were more able to stay happy. They were more likely to survive. And he was like recording this while he was in these terrible, atrocious circumstances. Now, since then, there's been various studies being done in modern life, and the connection between purpose and well-being isn't fully established yet by any sense. But for those who are in the therapy fields and in the coaching fields, and most of us have a sense of our purpose, there is, in my experience, everybody talks about the transformation that you go through because you have this thing that is bigger than you, and it's a powerful motivator to help you move through your blocks. The downside of that is every hang up and every block comes to the surface when you get in touch with your sense of purpose, because it's like, since I really tapped into my purpose, it's grown and it's evolved and got more detailed, but it's also brought up bigger and bigger challenges at each step of the way. And I had to go and do work to develop myself to move through those limiting beliefs or those hang-ups or those emotional issues. And it's still a process, very much still a process. And I think it is for everybody, unless you're enlightened. That's, I think, the only thing in my mind that I can connect to of not having that need. And so coming back to just echoing what Anne-Marie said, I find you might want to look at how you can embody your purpose more. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the direct job role. If you're in a job, it might be that you can get involved in a project or a community thing in work. Maybe it's something outside of work, which is your route to connecting with this. But what happens is, the more over time, your sense of purpose, it almost expands into all areas of your life. And Anne-Marie's worksheet, it covered 12 different areas of your life. And I would invite you to consider, for those that have got a good sense of their purpose from doing this exercise, consider, how does it show up for you in each of those areas of your life? So remember, you went through and you ranked and you put a number against each one. Just have a little look later on at how that shows up for you in all of those areas, because we often don't think about all of those areas. You were sharing this in the week, right, Anne-Marie? So do you want to share a bit more about that?
Yeah, just let me come back to what you were saying with regards to well-being and purpose. There's just something I want to mention before we go on. And there's a few studies that were done, like interviews to people that were, dying, and they asked them, what are your regrets? And one of the main things they come with, that they didn't really follow their heart's desire. So it's something that really, that's at the key of what people regret, when they haven't, really done something that they wanted to do, not put themselves in the center somehow, and have a sense of more fulfillment. So I think it's quite important to just refer that, because I guess it's also at the heart of what we want. When we leave, we want to, have also taken care of ourselves as well. So I think it's quite important.
Yeah, and one of the models in career development that we use is I've forgotten the name, so I will write it into the comments later on. But there's a theory, I think it's Super's theory, that talks about the different life stages, and how what we tend to do when we're younger is focus on midlife. We focus on when we'll be a parent or when we'll be in midlife. And one of the things this theory talks about is how the things that we focus on change as we get older. And one of my thoughts around this model is that if we spend more time at a young age thinking about what we want at that later stage of life, it can be really helpful for helping you to expand quickly, helping you to find your path quickly. And there's if you go and search on Google or any other search engine for what is a way to think about finding your purpose, one of the really common questions is, what do you want your epitaph to say? Or what's the legacy you want to leave when you die, right? And I remember doing this years ago, and I couldn't connect with it at all. I was I have no idea, because it wasn't personal enough. But now that you've done the personal work, if you feel like you've connected with your sense of purpose, I'd invite you to think to that level. Go take it to the end. Where do you see yourself in the long term, not just in the short term? And there's just another point to make that is a really interesting piece of research that I've come across, which is that if you came from any form of dysfunctional home, or if you experienced any kind of trauma, that trauma can be you've lived in a totally normal household, but you've, like we talked about in previous weeks, you've experienced a death at a young age of someone very close, somebody very close within the immediate family has been ill. Maybe you had to be a little bit too old or take on a little bit too much at a young age for some reason. Perhaps there was some form of neglect where maybe the adults around you weren't attuned to you well enough emotionally. They didn't help shine your light back at you and show you what your talents and amazing things are, right? So when that happens in life, there can be a huge tendency to seek security. And we tend to seek this by financial security, and we prioritize that financial security, the material security, over the sense of fun and joy. And it's very easy to make this mistake where we think that that's not important. If you've come from that background, it can quite often be a subconscious pattern that can block you from connecting with your sense of fun and enjoyment. And so if you have experienced anything severe, you might find it more difficult, and it might take a little bit longer to tap into this exercise. But do keep going with it. What I can tell you is it took me a very long time for me, because I had quite a traumatic childhood. There was a lot of very challenging, very overwhelming situations. And so my brain was really stuck in survival mode. And what we have to do in order to move past things is get our brain programmed for thriving. And thriving is joy and love and excitement. And
Get the cheerleader back.
Huh?
Get the cheerleader back.
Get the cheerleader back. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So thank you to those who have shared your experiences. We really, really appreciate knowing how you've got on, and we really appreciate the likes and the comments in the group. Yeah, Helen, totally shine your light back at you. You know, as a parent, I'm not a parent myself. I love children, don't have any myself, but one of the things I've heard a lot is the greatest thing you can do is help a child to know themselves. And you do that by, instead of telling them your paradigm and your worldview, you ask them to give their opinions from a very, very young age. Anne-Marie, we were talking about this in the week, I think. Can you remind me what you shared? I remember it's just linking for me right now.
Well, the truth is we need to help them to really, you know, it's the same way that our cheerleader went away, you know, because a teacher said something to us, or because other kids were not nice to us, or whatever. They're going exactly through the same thing. So what we need is really to motivate them and show them that, you know, they are just perfect the way they are, even if they do mistakes, even if they don't know how to say a word correctly or whatever. I see in my son is 6 now, and from 1 second to another, he can be crying, then happy, then angry, then, you know, they just live really the moment. They show us how to be. They are better teachers than we are, really. But the truth is, yeah, we really need to help them understand that they always have the choice to come back to feel good emotions, you know? That's something really important. Give them all of the coping skills they need, that even if they go through difficult moments, they always have a choice to come back to feeling good emotions, and to know that, you know, we have the right to make mistakes. We are humans. It's nothing bad. It's nothing wrong. And I have a good example. Like my dad came to visit us once, and my son fell and he was crying. Totally normal, right? And then my dad said, well, men don't cry. You shouldn't be crying. And I'm like, whoa, okay, total conditioning. So like, men can't cry. They have to suck it up. They are men. They have to be brave, and, you know, and this is exactly what we've been through ourselves, and that we are fighting now to, you know, trying to come back to our essence. So it's really like giving them all of the good things and the good, all of the good advice that we think that we didn't have, you know, trying to explain to them why something is like this and not like that, and not say, no, you can't do that, and that's it, because that's what I had. I never had any explanations on whatever. No, it was no, and I didn't know why.
I can relate so much to that myself as well. So many times, you should be this is how to be, you know, and it's not always in words either that's conveyed. It can be conveyed in a look with a, you know, everyone knows their mother has that look. That look that, you know, something's up. And I'd say on top of that, I just want to talk about this point of failure. Like, how many of us as adults have had a fear of failure? How many times in life do you hold back because you're afraid of failing? You're afraid of looking silly. You're afraid of what people will say. And you know, drop us a comment again if that experience has ever happened to you. It's certainly happened to me on many occasions. One of the things my friends say to me is, "Oh, you're so courageous. You're always doing all this crazy stuff, Holly, and like, you're on camera." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, I feel awful." I'm like my we're all our worst critic, right? I need to get my own cheerleader installed better. And the thing is, like, I remember reading this story. I can't remember exactly where I read it, but it was a mother she was the mother of someone who became a Nobel Prize winner. And one of the things that she said she really wanted to instill in her children was the sense of failure is not a problem. Yeah. If you never fail, you've never tried to do anything. And she really spent a lot of time conveying to her children that when they went through a negative experience where they failed at something, she encouraged them to persevere. She encouraged them to look for the lesson in it. And she encouraged them to not feel bad about it. So she encouraged them to express their emotions, to acknowledge how they felt, and then to say, okay, so where does that leave you? What do you want to do? What are your options? And she believes that this is the essence of why her son went on to become a Nobel Peace Prize winner, I think it was, or a science prize winner. I can't remember. I'm sorry that the details aren't there, but I think it's such a good example.
Yeah.
And as well as that, when we don't have that in childhood, one of the big lessons that I've learned is the people you surround yourself is so important. You need them to be your cheerleaders, right? And so often the people who are closest to us, whose opinions matter the most, are not our cheerleaders. Has that happened for you, Anne-Marie, as well?
Yeah, they say, actually, I think there's a sentence that says that if you're at a table that only you teach to other people, then you're not learning anything, and you're at the wrong table. So basically, we have to surround us with people that uplift us in that sense, because if we are the only teacher, then we're not learning anything. And the truth is that usually the closest people, usually family, isn't it, is not the people that are going to uplift you. It's not always like that, but like usually it is how it is. So we need to find other people that really help us, grow and go for new things and get courage and, share our experiences, share the failures, share the good stuff as well. It's so important to surround ourselves with very bright and uplifting people, no doubt.
So I've worked with a phenomenal teacher called Shavasti, who he does family constellations, and he does one-to-one work with people and celebrities based in London. And if you type in his name and family constellations, he has some brilliant videos on his website. And but what I loved is one of the things that he says all the time is it takes a courageous soul to be happier than their parents. Okay. And the reason I say that is because one of the reasons we fear failure is because we fear being rejected. We fear not belonging. These are some of our core needs when you look at Maslow's work or various psychologists. And the thing is, when something scares a parent, they try to steer their child away from it. But if you want to grow and expand beyond your parents, you have to do things that are going to be different, that are going to make you happier. And so just watch out for the advice. But also, I'm not saying throw it out. Age does bring wisdom. too, and lots of experience, but always ask yourself, is the person who's giving me this advice, are they really like educated and experienced on this topic? You know, like if you want to build a business and you want to know the right thing to do, don't go and ask your mum and dad, go and ask someone who's in that business, in that field, who's educated and experienced it. You know, people say things all the time to me about the things I'm doing, and I take it all in, I absorb it, because I love getting lots of different connections and sparking ideas. But ultimately, I have to process it and decide what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to throw out. And I don't feel bad about throwing that out, because it's my choice, right? And so, how do we develop our courage, Anne-Marie? That's the question that comes up for me with this.
Talking to ourselves better. I think all comes from there. So one advice I could give is try to be aware during the day of the words you say to yourself. Like imagine you're writing something and you make a mistake, right? What do you say to yourself? Do you say, oh, you're silly, or you made a mistake again, or, you know, just be like a spectator of your own life, trying to see the words that you usually use. You know, are they nice words? Are they not? They're usually not. So we need to be very careful about the words we use in our daily life, because somehow if we repeat them over and over again, they will influence us. So if I say all the time, if I say I make mistakes all the time, no doubt I'm going to make more. If I say, oh, I made a mistake, it doesn't matter. Next time I'll be better. It's all completely different. So, you know, be a spectator of your own words and try to change them. They say we have, I think it is, we have like 7 seconds to change a thought we thought or a word we said, so that, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to say. Go for it. You're the best, or whatever. It looks silly, really. It looks completely silly, but bits by bits, day by day, it becomes more natural. But we need to be very careful of the words we say to ourselves, the words that, you know, we don't even say it out loud, but we say it inside.
So I just want to put another question out to the group. Can you give an example, and go ahead and type it in the comments, of something unhelpful, something negative perhaps, that you tell yourself on a regular basis? So like for me, I would say, I don't know, I think at the moment I'm a bit overweight. It's the heaviest I've ever been in my life, and I'm constantly telling myself, oh, you're overweight. And one of the things I'm trying to do is consciously change that to be, you know, you can be comfortable in your skin, and also if you want to change that, then you can take action on it. So that's where I'm at. How about you guys? Is there anything that you say about yourself or tell yourself that is often unhelpful? Nicola Humber, who gave the talk on cycles, in her book Unbound, has a brilliant exercise for working through this, and she invites you as a woman to think about what's the one part. She says to go through the whole body, but one of the parts is think about a part of your body that you dislike, because most women have something. We've picked this conditioning up that we're imperfect somehow. And she says to really question, where does that come from? What are the messages behind it? And, you know, what's the hidden metaphor that's going on? So, for example, for me, I was like, I have a really pointy nose. It's something my sister always used to call me Foxy, because I had a pointy nose, and my family would all laugh about it. And I used to joke and flare my nostrils like this. Don't know if you can see. That was my coping mechanism. And so, you know, what that told me was I must conform to a certain picture of beauty. And it brought up all ideas for me of don't stick your nose in, don't be nosy, keep yourself to yourself, don't be involved in other people's business. And it's amazing how many of these things keep us hemmed in, keep us bound, in Nicola's words. You know, she has a great example in the book about letting herself be wild, having wild hair, and letting her inner witch shine out. And she uses all this wonderful language. And I would invite you, if you're interested in this, to go and get her book and do that section of it, because for me, it was incredibly powerful. Do you have an example of that, Anne-Marie? Sorry to put you on the spot. You can say no if you want to.
Yeah, so, for me, it would be the weight as well. So it's something that, like, since I can remember, since being a teenager, it's something I've always somehow not only struggled with, but the reminder is always there, you know, like there's a perfection you have to go to. So like always thinking like, okay, I'm not there. When, as you say, it's just a state we can be in, really, like, okay, you're perfect just the way you are. And if you have to be just, you know, happy about it, or, you know, just sometimes I think that we can even influence it by thinking wrongly about it. So maybe if we just, you know, stop thinking about it, and maybe it would just disappear. So that's something I think about as well. Just really, I've been like working on the way I think and the words I say for quite long now. But it's still a daily work. It's still very, very easy to go back to the familiar, to go back to the inner critic, to go back to saying the words that we were used to hear when we were young, to say no to your kids and don't give any explanation. But then you have to remember, no, I have to explain. And then it's really a day-to-day, daily, like non-stop work we have to do for ourselves.
So we've got a couple of comments in the group as well. I'll just read these. So we've got, I have loads, but today there has been a lot of why are you not capable of remembering this stuff, and why can't you focus? Obviously that's not helpful, because then she's getting nothing done because she's thinking about that. We have another one, my creativity is pointless. I think that comes from teachers in the past. And another one which says, mine is not being clever enough. I missed issues with weight, although I'm sure my mother tried. So like, I think it's so important to share these things and realize that we all have these things, because so often we don't talk about it. You know, one of the themes that we've had in many of these lessons has been have the uncomfortable conversations. And I think it's really brave and really courageous of everyone to share these things, because it's not easy to be vulnerable, and it can be scary. And there's also, I think for me, whenever people share this stuff with me, and when I share it in groups or with clients, there's always a resonance of like, oh, it's not just me. And I love that feeling.
It's so true. Yeah, you know, like I guess that, you know, when I was growing up, my mom never sat with me and really explained to me, well, you're a woman, this and this is going to happen, whatever. So I feel like I went through the whole stuff on my own, like trying to figure out what I needed to do, when I needed to do it, and everything like that, all the changes that you go through physically and mentally as you grow up. But just because nobody did that to her as well. So it was just, you know, redoing the known. And so anything that I had gone through, I never talked to anyone. But then after a few years, and back a few years now, I started to talk a bit more to my my friends. And I found out that many of my supposed close friends had gone to the through the same things, maybe same conditions or surgeries that I had gone through, and she didn't know about me and I didn't know about her. So it's like similar to what you say, like we all go through difficult paths sometimes, but we keep all for ourselves. Like we feel, I don't know if it's a feeling of I don't know even what it can be, if it's shame, if we are afraid that we will share it but people won't, you know, be interested in what we are going through. But I see it so much that we keep things, but then when we decide to release, when we decide to just be us and take the mask off, then we find that there's loads of other people we can share that with and feel so relieved and so lighter. So it's very similar to what you say.
On my screen, Maria, and hopefully she hasn't, and yours looks as though we might have frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back. We're back.
You're back. Yeah.
So I can shed a little bit more light on that, which is that sometimes we have a fear of burdening other people, and we fear that we'll overwhelm other people with our true self, with our problems. And, you know, there's many different phrases. Some people say a problem shared is a problem halved. Some people say a problem shared is a problem doubled. So there's no right or wrong in it. You have to feel safe in order to share. But at the same time, I would also say that when we're able to be vulnerable, the more vulnerable we can be, the more connection we find, the less alone we feel with our problems. And vulnerability for me has been the key to massive acceleration in the things that I want to do. Being vulnerable and telling people, this is what's really going on for me. I'm not saying put it on them like it's a problem. I'm not saying go and like unburden yourself on everybody. But what I am saying is take time to connect with people and where you feel comfortable to. And I'd suggest this is a challenge for the next few days. Look for opportunities to share a little bit more of yourself with the people in your life. Because, you know, one of the things that is common to all human beings, and you can tell me if you've experienced this too, Anne-Marie, but when someone comes to you and asks for help, we have this innate nature where we want to help solve, okay? And if you're willing to be vulnerable, that help flows far more to you. And it doesn't mean that that person has to solve everything for you or give you all the answers, but they might be able to give you a little piece of the puzzle that moves you on. Or they might be able to say, hey, I can't help, but leave it with me. I might know someone who can. Or, hey, why don't you have a conversation with such and such a person?
Yeah.
And this idea of connection, intimacy, the level of intimacy that you can achieve in relationships is linked with the level of vulnerability that you can bear, that you can bring, that you can be open with. And now, it's certainly not wise to go into relationships of any form. I don't mean relationships in the sense of sexual relationships here. I'm talking about all relationships. It's always wise with new people to unfold slowly, like a flower, petal by petal. You don't want to like take everything out there, but test those limits. If you're a very walled person, if you keep this stuff to yourself, take a chance, put something out there, something small. It doesn't have to be massive. And what I'm going to ask each of you to do is actually think of something right now that you can commit to, that helps you to be a little bit more vulnerable. Commit to a way that in the next 24 hours you can express some vulnerability. It can be teeny tiny, hardly anything. It can be as small as, I'm actually going to tell someone I'm struggling, or this has been really hard. And what I'd say as well in terms of emotion is learn to label your emotions beyond sad, mad, and glad. How often do we say, we're sad, mad, and glad? You're nodding there, Anne-Marie. Share some more.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to add to what you were saying, because we usually, just, so there are tiny lies, right? But you ask me if I'm okay, and I'm not okay, but I'm going to say I'm okay. So I do that to somehow, protect you, or for me not to have to explain what's happening. But every time we do tiny lies, we think it's okay, but inside we know that what we are doing is wrong. So we usually think of what's happening in the exterior, what's happening with the person I'm talking to. Like a friend of yours is calling you because they want to go for a coffee or whatever, and you just want to stay at home doing nothing. But you're gonna say, oh no, I already have somebody passing by, and so I can't go and see you, whatever. Because you just don't want to say that. You don't want to see that person. There's 1,000 ways you can say that. But no, you're trying to find some explanation to say that you can't go because of this or because of that. But inside, there's a big confusion that you have to invent something just for you to have your moment. So we always, looking at what's exterior. Okay, so now I'll look okay because I found an answer that was politically correct not to go. But we never think about what's happening inside. So every time we do little lies that are not really lies, but they are an adaptation of reality, we say, right? Inside, we create a very big confusion. So we should be aware of that and trying to be a lot more us. So that's similar to what you say, Holly. I don't have to say all the time that I'm okay. I don't have to say all the time that everything's fine. I don't have to say all the time yes to everything. And it's really important to be true to ourselves. And also, if we don't like the situation we are in, coming back to the purpose, we can just say, okay, I'm in this situation right now because I need to make money, because whatever, I have a family and I have to provide, but this is not how it's going to be forever. But we can just acknowledge how the thing is today and still have, a vision of what it's going to be and how different it's going to be. And it can be with regards to our mood, it can be with regards to our life. So it's really important to always be true to ourselves as much as possible.
You remind me of one of the Indian philosophers and mystics and teachers called Sadhguru. And he talks a lot about his main program is called Inner Engineering, but the concept of it is that we all have a choice about how we feel. And so often what we choose to do is feel bad in ourselves rather than find the root of calmness and happiness and peace. Like when you're angry, when you're irritated, it really doesn't serve you. And, when you really think about it, if you want to just have a peaceful situation with another person or in your life, then the best route to achieving that is to be in a calm, content place in yourself. When you get mad, it doesn't achieve anything. What it does is it's an avoidance of what you're really truly feeling, and there can be many reasons for that, but learning to actually take a moment to figure out what you feel, what that emotion is, can then help you to say, okay, this is what I'm actually feeling, rather than all the surface stuff. Particularly, say, if you're like having an argument with your partner, that's a typical example for me. And I have to take the time and go, hang on, why am I feeling mad? What's actually going on here for me? And like sometimes I'll notice, oh, okay, that's like some hang up of mine. And other times I'll notice, okay, I think there's something going on with him here, and I have to have that conversation. But it's that working out what you actually feel is the key to it. is the key to keeping the emotional balance, to keeping yourself in your like really positive best self state. And it's not easy to do. It's habitual. We've grown up in an environment where nobody's done that, right? And I'd say, like, you know, we're a generation where we have the internet, where we have access to great teachers. There's so much free content. You know, the generations before us never had this amount of knowledge. There's a great quote from a School of Life book on surviving in the digital age, and it has this quote that says, we now have more information at our fingertips in the general population than what the government had even 20 years ago, not even 50 years ago, I think it says 20 years ago. So we have more information as an individual citizen than the government had. And we're in this funny phase in the world where individuals are becoming more intelligent. We have more access to information and knowledge, and we are building and developing at a faster rate as individuals than the systems can catch up with. And this tension is showing in those systems all around the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's showing up in our workplaces. The way we work is about to radically change. It's not going to happen fast. Radical doesn't mean fast, but what I mean is the way we perceive it, the way we approach it, the way we see it as serving us and serving others. Millennials right now, and I think many people who are on the self-development path are starting to expect businesses to take more responsibility. They don't think that it should come from governments. And in order for that to happen, every single one of us as an individual, we literally have to take responsibility for our own actions. And if you are not actively practicing your values and actively acting in accordance with your morals and your beliefs, I'm not saying that everybody's beliefs are right, and there are always some clashes or difficult situations when you're choosing between two wrongs, for example, and you have to make a best case assessment. But in general, we can all do more to actually stand out, not in the sense of, you know, being seen, but to actually stand for something. Yeah. And so this theme really connects with purpose for me. It's like, what are you going to stand for in your life? And what are you not going to stand for? And where do your boundaries sit? And so the next piece of work is really around, how do you navigate with your boundaries? You know, there's a great lady called Lisa A. Romano, and she's the breakthrough life coach, I think is her title. And she mostly works with people who've been in narcissistic relationships. But many of the videos around boundaries are really, really helpful. And if you have someone who is a bit narcissistic at work, she also has some great tips for how to deal with them, how to like not absorb all that negativity and keep your boundaries straight. Any final thoughts on that, Anne-Marie?
I think if I would pick one thing that you were saying is really like giving ourselves the opportunity to really, you know, sit down and understand the feeling that we're feeling, because I think sometimes we have so much things around us that we don't even acknowledge what we are feeling. Always finding stuff to do, always finding things to, you know, run after, and not really, you know, sit down and understand, okay, you know, I'm doing this job. Do I actually like it? What do I like? What do I don't like? And, you know, start from there. And, okay, somebody is asking me to go for coffee. Is it something that I want, or I'm just doing it to look good? Is it something that is, you know, going to uplift me, or I'm going to be a lot more sad because I know that this person is going to, you know, be so negative during an hour, and then I won't be able to do anything else during the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. So just think, you know, try to think for yourself, you know, what are you, give you the time, give you the opportunity to just understand what's good and what's not for you, and try to decide on that, you know, consciously. Even if you decide to go for that coffee, be conscious that it's not the place to be, but you still decide to go there for whatever reason. Try to be a lot more conscious of what the best decision for you.
So I would invite you, just as we come to the end of this, to pop into the comments. How are you going to commit to being more vulnerable or to noticing your emotions this week? It can start with just noticing it yourself. It can start with just going deeper than mad, sad, and glad. It might be something connected to someone else, but do share in the group, because you know, when you say it out loud and you put it out in public or in a group, you're more likely to hold yourself to it, and you're more likely to move out of the comfort zone and give it a chance and see this as an experiment. I'm not saying that you have to feel great about this or you have to feel sure about it, but give it a go. Commit to the tiniest experiment that you feel comfortable with, or the biggest if that's the case. Some people kind of like to go gung-ho much more, but for the most part, it's much better to take small steps into these things. And so the final thing that I think we should share is you have install your inner cheerleader package, which is a much stronger version of than what we did in the following the live this week. So I don't know if you want to pick one person or a few. It's totally up to you, Anne-Marie, but do you have the group open on your phone? Perhaps you could choose somebody who you feel, or a number of people. It's totally up to you, whatever you feel called to do to receive that prize of that package. So I'm just going to reply to Danny as well. The family constellation person is called Shavasti, Shavasti. And if you search for that name with family constellations, it should be the first one that comes up. And he has a brilliant book as well called what's the title of it? It's all about truth and the importance of having unconditional truth in our lives. It's got a picture of a white feather on the front. I'd highly recommend having a read of that book if you're interested in this topic as well. It doesn't necessarily teach you about how to tap into describing your emotions, but it does give a great perspective on all the different ways that when we don't tell the truth, it shows up in our lives. And he tells it through his personal life story, which is fascinating as well. So, Anne-Marie, who or which people are the prize winners?
So can it be several?
Yes.
Can it be several?
This is your show, so you get to choose.
Okay, I'd be happy to offer it to the 3 ladies that are watching us live, I think. So, okay. And commenting a lot. So Lindsay, Helen, and Dani.
Amazing.
I see a lot of comments from her. So
well done,
I think it's going to be a really, really great package for you.
So drop me a private message or send me your email and I will give you instructions about how to access that package. I'm really excited for you to try it, because having experienced Anne-Marie's work myself and the power of these programs, it will literally change your life in a matter of days. You will literally start to notice the hang-ups will reduce, the things that are bugging you will massively reduce. At least that's been my experience of it. My partner's also done some work with Anne-Marie, and he's had a very similar experience of, doing a rapid transformational therapy session, having that immediate issue go from like 100 and reduce down in terms of his personal emotional landscape, and then continuing to take action on the thing that he wanted to change. And so it's it's just brilliant. So this is like a taster. If you are interested in doing a session with Anne-Marie, you can find all of her details on my website, which is evolving.careers. And if you click on the button saying the work experience, and then if you scroll down, you'll find her profile and bio. And within that is all the links to her site. If you want to follow her, if you want to just, you know, you don't necessarily have to buy, there's no pressure in this group. If you just want to follow and enjoy some of the things that she's sharing, there's loads of fabulous stuff in there. And equally for all of our coaches and speakers, their bios are available on the website in the same place. And they, you know, if you want to write a book, if that's something that's on your agenda, Nicola Humber has some brilliant giveaways and brilliant workshops that she does on that. Who else can I say? If you are looking to develop your business idea or grow your business, Polly Hearsay is your woman. She's absolutely amazing at this stuff. Like I said, all of these teachers have lots of programs and freebies that they give away. So do go and follow them. Do go and check out their stuff. And as well, we're going to start to remove these videos in the next week or so, because we are putting them for sale. So if you want to get a copy of the recordings and go back through them and have access to all of the wonderful stuff and lots of extras in the workbook, extra tools and things like that, it's only £33, and we're not doing it to make money. We are actually raising money for charity. So 100% of that package will go to charity. We don't take a penny of it. I think there's like 1% fee which goes to the processing agent that on the website, but apart from that, 100%. And we would love for you to help us raise some money and for this group to have an even more powerful impact. And I have one last big request from you all, which is I set an intention at the start of this group. Maybe you can share it, Anne-Marie, for how many people did I ask to be in this group? Can you remember? I don't know if she can hear me. So I set an intention for there to be 100 people in this group, and we are so close to achieving that number. So if you can share this group, if there is anybody in your life that you feel would benefit from watching these videos, share them this week before we start to take them down, because they are going to be going down from Sunday. So please invite people, get them to watch them while they're free. And I would love to see us hit that 100 number, and we only need a few more people. So be generous if you can, if you feel like you've had value from this. Do think about the people in your lives, maybe a best friend, maybe a work colleague, share it to them, send it to them, and help us grow this community. Now, we've committed to do 8 weeks, and at the moment we are debating, all of the coaches and teachers, about what we do with this group following those 8 weeks. So if you want us to keep going, we need to see some love from you guys. We need to know that you want it. We need to know what you want help with, and we'll see what comes of that. So we look forward to hearing from you. And Anne-Marie, do you want to close tonight for us?
Yeah, so sorry, I was the 100 woman. Yeah, a great number. So yeah, I think what I want to close on is, I think step by step, you're getting a lot of insights from all of the teachers that really, you know, sometimes we just need to stop time and be at the center, you know, like think about what's important for us. And today we've done quite a lot on that. But it's really like, we have to think that if we want to help others around us the best way, family, friends, children, we need to start with ourselves. And sometimes that's the biggest part we forget about. So it's really important to think that, okay, if I help myself first, then I'll be able to help everything and anyone around me a lot better than I do today. So if that's the intention, then we need to remember that we need because I need as well, and Holly will need as well. You know, we all need to remember that everything starts from ourselves. So I think it's something really important to think, and participating in this experience also has been a really good decision you've made to really, you know, try to get new insights and new learnings on how to do that the best way, quickest.
I love those closing words. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. And up next week, we are talking all about money and finance. And we have Tonya G, who's going to be joining us for that. This is another session not to miss. It's going to be very interactive. And I've never done one of Tonya's sessions, and I'm going to follow live and do it with you guys for the first time. But what I do know is many people who've done her sessions, and every single one of them said to me, they had a massive breakthrough in just doing this thing that she's going to do with you next week in this exercise that she's bringing. So I hope to see you all there. And until then, take care and have a great week. Bye, guys.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Take care, guys.